Okay, let's make sure YouTube shows us being live. It was giving me a little pain today. Welcome to the House of Horrors, episode 167, with all guest Erica Dyer.
Dyer. No R.
Dyer.
Yep.
Actress and producer. So, can you give we don't got no, sorry, tongue twist. No one's in the chat right now, but we still, can you introduce yourself so anybody who watches the replay?
Okay. My name is Erica Dyer. I, as Echo said, actress, producer. I do got a day job like most people, but yeah. And I just recently was on a film set where we were finishing up 3 different movies. So
Wow.
we push them out pretty fast.
It seems like that with the independents versus the big studio ones, where they can take a year just to put out one film. You're doing literally, like a machine gun with
Well,
them.
the situation with this past week, we had to do some pickup shots for cheerleader elimination, which we were filming earlier this year. And so while we were there for filming of Axe Grinder 7, we were going to do these pickup shots. So we filmed Axe Grinder 7. We also did the pickup shots for cheerleader elimination. And then there was one scene. You say sometimes they do come out fast, but sometimes they take forever to come out. And there was one movie that I filmed at the beginning of last year. It was actually, I think, in January of last year, Silent Night, Bloody Night 3. And it's still not out. There was an additional scene that they wanted to film with me. So we filmed that while we were there. So technically, I finished 3 movies while I was there.
Wow.
They actually, I wasn't in the movie, but they also did some scenes for a 4th movie. I thought that was Axe Grinder 9, but I could be wrong because we were filming Axe Grinder 7. So I don't know. But I wasn't in that other movie. But yes, it was very busy.
I believe it was Amityville, the Turkey Day, or
yeah,
it was like I was all ready because everything was saying November 2023. I'm like, I'm gonna, I got my Thanksgiving movie to review, and then come the end of the month, I'm like, okay, there goes my plans. And sorry, my phone, because my mom has post polio, so if she needs to get a hold of me, I have to be able to hear my phone. But it's like waiting, and on a. What's the longest you've had to wait for one of the movies you've done to
2
come
years?
Out?
Yep, it was like 2 years. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it took so long for Camp Pleasant Lake to come out. That was a larger production. I had a very small part in a larger production. My character's name was Stephanie for Camp Pleasant Lake. When it had its release earlier this year, it was pretty big. They were in the theaters. They had billboards up in California. So, it was a great experience for the most part. As any film set, there's always situations. But loved the people that I met there. But yeah, it took almost 2 years for it to come out because I actually filmed that in August of 2022.
I think I have seen that one. I'm just trying to remember. One thing about reviewing movies on YouTube is sometimes I forget what I've seen.
Yep.
So like I have to have something to like remind me. I've had a movie that I've almost about zombies in Japan or somewhere. I've almost reviewed about a dozen times now before I go, wait a minute.
Yeah.
But how did you get into acting and producing?
Okay, so this is actually a pretty interesting story, and I keep telling myself I need to sit down and write it. I do plan on writing a book about all of this, my experiences. But 30 years ago, actually more than 30 years ago, I was always in theater all through school, always in theater. And when I first started college back in 1992, I went to college for acting and filmmaking. Um, Made it through about one semester, and then I had to drop out of college. And I now have a 30 son that's going to be almost 30. So um, as I had two boys, and as my kids grew up, I did other things. I always thought I was going to be a writer. I always thought I was going to be a comic, uh, acting, but instead I got into IT, technical computers.
Yeah,
You got to go where the money
information
is.
tech, yeah, information technology.
You got it. You got to go where the money is. And then a few years ago, it was I think 2021, it might have been. I went to Horror Hound in Cincinnati in that March, and I was watching some of the very small, low budget independent horror films. And I asked one of the guys, "Well, how did you make how did you um, raise the money to make that?" Because he was the writer, the director, the actor. His brother was in the movie. His brother's friends were in the movie. I'm like, "Well, how did you raise the money?" And that's when I found out about Indiegogo.
Yeah.
So I started searching on Indiegogo, just kind of, oh, well, there's a movie Felissa Rose is going to be in. I love Felissa Rose. I want her to, I want this movie to be finished for Felissa. And I gave a little bit of money to this independent film through Indiegogo. And then I saw there was acting perks, so a lot of these low budget films, people get really angry sometimes about, oh, you shouldn't have acting perks, or you shouldn't have an extra perk on these fundraisings, because they do it on Kickstarter, Indiegogo, GoFundMe.
Yeah.
There's several different kinds out there. And what you got to remember is they don't give you usually big roles. I wouldn't expect to go in there not being acting in anything in the past 30 years and expect somebody to give me a lead role. So what I did is, in the Craving, I went ahead, and it was like $50 or $100. It wasn't much, but I gave that. And in the Craving, there's a scene where everybody's dying and people are getting torn apart. And it's actually my voice as one of the voices, no, help me.
That's what it was, because I had seen you on, and I'm going, where is she?
Where's she at? No, I mean, actually, I'm not in it. It's just my voice. And I thought that was neat. And so that's what happened in 2021. So then when 2022 comes around, I was like, you know what? I really think I could do one of the bigger parts. I think I could be an extra. What do most extras do? They stand in the background. We need a crowd scene. And then they have their main actors that they hire, they audition, they pay. You got your leads, and you got your talent that comes in. I could be an extra. I could stand in the background. Why not? And I went ahead and gave, I think it was $500 for late checkout, which sounds like a lot, but you got to remember some of these involve, we got producers often tied to it. And so I would give more. I mean, working in IT, I have a very good job. So I had the money to play, and I justified it. I said, well, you know what? Some people, they collect things. Other people go and drink, or they go and sailboating. I want to go be on this film set where Felissa Rose is. She was on this film set. So I went to go film late checkout. And while there, a person that they had that was supposed to play the sheriff didn't show. I was supposed to be a deputy, just kind of standing in the background in late checkout. Well, the sheriff didn't show. And so Josh had asked me if I wanted to go ahead and step into the role of Sheriff Miller. It was just a few lines. And I was like, I've never been. I mean, I've been on camera. Actually, I was on TV, local cable show, like 28 years ago. It was on a VHS tape that I recorded it, if that tells you anything. But for comedy. But so I was in Late Checkout as Sheriff Miller. And then Wolf Hollow was my next one. Again, very few speaking lines. And at this moment, I've probably filmed as the years progressed. I still do the Indiegogo. I can tell you that I don't audition for roles, and the reason I don't, I see it as more of something I enjoy, is something I'm passionate about, and I have the money that I can help the independent film industry. And plus, when you audition, you're not guaranteed the role. If I give them money, I know I'm getting the role. And so, and I think at this point, those that have worked with me, I'm not bad. I'm actually pretty good at it. Uh, People that have seen there was actually another podcast that talked about Camp Blood 666 Part 2, and I'll never forget this. The guy said, because I listened to the podcast, the guy said on it, um, oh, I'm a, the lady that played, God, I can't remember the name I played. I've played so many people at this point. Grace, the lady that played Grace, she lives in a trailer park and she's, but we love Grace. She came in and I'm sitting there, I'm like, but I was acting. But I was good at it because they thought it was real. But yeah, so that's how I got into it. Was honestly, I went and I looked at the Kickstarters, I looked at the Indiegogo, and a lot of people frown upon that because they feel like, oh, well, that's taking away from that actor that needs that role. Well, not really, because if they can't raise the funds to make the movie, there's no roles for anybody. There's no, everybody that's needed to make the movie. None of that's going to happen. So, and unfortunately, that has happened too. I have had uh, movies that I've donated to that have not filmed. I've been ghosted by people. And that's why I said I need to write a book that pretty much take my money. But not everybody's the same. And I wish more people would give the independent film industry some love, because it is amazing to me when you got these people that can take $10,000 and the passion of friends and people that want to join and want to make a good movie. You can actually, for the right people, you can end up with something pretty amazing.
Yeah. You ever heard of a movie called Plaga Zombie?
No, I haven't.
This movie was made back in Argentina, 1997. I've heard they spent anywhere from $150 to $450. They went on to make 4 movies, makeup using cake mix, food coloring, and very fun, especially the sequels. And they recently even got an American sequel. Mm-hmm. And you can see off that anywhere from $150 to $450, they just made something awesome.
Yeah. And it's amazing. I have been on film sets where their budget was maybe, I don't even know if it was $5,000. They're filming with phones, and I'm thinking, you're going to film that with your iPhone? Okay. I mean, I'm not a filmmaker, but iPhone's pretty good now. So
yeah, I remember one of the phone companies, they caught on to people doing this. So they had advertisements going on. You want to make a movie? Get your phone.
Yeah.
And they were advertising it. And during the pandemic, because I never really wasn't a guy who got into independence. But during the pandemic, you're at home, and so you're going stuff like Tubi. Oh, let's watch these movies, all these independent movies. And now I'm like, that's so much better than a big studio movie. I swear you can tell that you guys are having so much fun.
Mm-hmm.
It's just.
Yeah. Well, and there are some of the independent movies that I've been in. I'm not going to name any names for any of these, but there's some that I've been in where I'm looking at some of these paid actors and, oh, I'm much better than them. So I want to give a shout out to everybody. If you think you want to be an extra, look at the Indiegogos, look at the Kickstarters. Find the Facebook groups, GoFundMe. There's all kinds of people that are raising money for these independent films. And now that we have the internet the way it is and social media the way it is, we can share the love without and you might think, oh well, I can only give $5 or I can only give and I've even seen Indiegogos where it's like, give $1 and we'll put you as a thank you, just thank
Uh,
you.
oh, thank you. Oh, they all needed. They need somebody for the missing posters.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
much, and
missing,
your
that's a
face,
big
yeah,
one.
your face is on there. For I believe it was a cheerleader camp elimination. They had the what do they call it, the finalizing, that not the finishing funds or whatever. Where you got that bundle or whatever.
Hmm.
I was like, oh, why not? I've never done it before. It's like,
Yep.
okay, so they got finalizing or whatever. Looking forward to seeing that one, by the way.
Yeah, that was actually the I had so much fun on that movie. Huge part, huge part. Julianne Prescott, this is going to be her directorial debut. She also wrote it, so did a great job. Loved being there. Um, it was so much fun. In some of these film sets, when we see the same people over and over, we start to become more like a family. But yeah, thank you for, contributing. I mean, we had things on there like we were taking pictures for the calendar, those that had got the calendar perk. We were taking pictures for the calendar. We have our furry costumes. If anybody bought the furry costumes, we still
She
have, probably those available.
she was actually, because me and Steven had interviewed her last year, and she was telling us about it at the time,
Yeah.
and then seeing it, I was like, oh yeah.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, it was fun. And you mentioned the missing posters. So there was a movie that we filmed the beginning of not the beginning, it was April of last year. Um let's again, I got to look at my list. That's terrible. I have so many movies that I filmed. Desert Fiends. Desert
that's
Fiends. And one thing that we specifically did, because if some of you are thinking, oh, well, if I give the $50, I won't get anything for it. Well, we specifically in that movie, we had all the missing posters up, and me and Bruce Lockhart, we went and looked and specifically said something about each of the posters on the wall that we were on. So each person was acknowledged, and in our hearts we're thankful for it. But yeah, I mean that's honestly how I got into it. Yes, I had acting in my blood from years ago. I always loved it. Thought it's what I was going to do. That and comedy and writing, but I kind of got out of it and I didn't know how to break into it. But many of you that might live in big cities, because I started doing this too. If you live near Atlanta, if you live near Philadelphia, if you live in New York, LA, do a search on Facebook for extras casting. Chicago, eh, they were
oh yeah,
always posting for background extras for Chicago Med, Chicago Fire, all of those.
yeah, the whole Chicago franchise.
Yeah, now you don't make much. They pay you like
Yeah,
$100 to be on set like 8 hours. So once you get taxed on that, you're really getting nothing. But the thrill of being in that that series and seeing your face on the screen. So if you do want to get into acting, if somebody does, they can. It just depends on what they want to do. Um, and I ran into great filmmakers. If you think, oh, well, I'll be terrible, trust me, if you're terrible, they're going to cut you from from the film, or which sometimes you do get cut from the film just for they have to cut down the time, but or they'll direct you. That's what they do. They don't want to put out a crappy movie. They're trying to put out good work. So don't be scared. Jump into it.
and
Look at those fundraisers.
and yeah, and like I said, I've always had looked and was always had wondered about them. And then I
Mhm.
remember, the interview with Julie, and then seeing it, and like we were talking to somebody, and they were like, no one had gotten that particular peak yet. It was like $50. I was like,
Mhm.
and Steven's mom got him. Like, well, that might be kind of cool just to do.
Yep. Yeah. And there's one right now. I'm really because I'm starting a new project next week, but there's one Indiegogo I really kind of want to join, Bad Apples, with Steve Morris. And it's because he's from Indiana. So, that's one I keep looking at. I'm like, oh, I want that. But we do have to be selective. You can't do all of it. So, um, but yeah, it's fun. I love the acting part. I have done so many movies in the last 2 years. This year, you guys are going to see a lot of these movies come out because I've been filming since the beginning of last year. What should come out this year? Silent Night, Bloody Night 3 is going to be out. I think that
So I think
Pay to Die.
I think IMDb lists Placid Park.
Yeah, that I'm actually filming on Monday. They're currently filming that. My scene that I'm in is going to be on Monday.
That's the one. Every time I look at the name, I think of Lake Placid.
Oh yeah, yep. That's filming in Ohio. And then we should have. We just filmed Bikers versus Werewolves. That was fun. That was a lot of fun. I played a homeless person in that one. And it was funny because the guy that played my partner in there, he was a very good looking guy. We're looking at each other. We're like, well, homeless people can look good too.
We got, I guess this is Cody Tudor. It says, hey, Erica,
Yes,
miss your face.
I know. Hi, Cody. I just saw Cody.
Well,
Yep.
here's a question. You said you have what, sons? What is their reaction to your films, and have they seen them?
They have. They have seen them. Actually, my older son, he's watched Camp Blood 666 part 2 with his friends, but my younger son could care less. I've tried to get both of them into acting. I've said, hey, do you want to be in the movie? I'll take you to the film set. If anything, we'll get you to be an extra in the background. My older son would be open to it. And we thought we were going to do it for one movie, but then the guy, I don't know what ever happened. If he ended up filming, he didn't film it with us. But then my younger son could care less. He's very, very straight and narrow. He doesn't care about the movies, and he doesn't watch them. He doesn't think I'm funny. He doesn't listen to my podcast. Where the older son, he thinks, it's kind of neat, you know. But it's really not stuff they would watch.
These are horror. Have you been a horror fan for a long time, or is it just something you've become a fan of?
Great question. Lifelong horror fan. I grew up, I was raised by just my dad, single father. At that time, I thought I was his only child. Found out later I have a older half sister that he never knew about. But I can remember my very first horror movie that I remember. Now, I might have seen more before that, but I remember at the age of 5 watching the movie Magic. If you guys remember, it was about the ventriloquist dummy.
Oh, with God, his name skips my mind now.
I know it's Hannibal Lecter is all I can think of. I can't think of his real name.
I know his name, and he's a known name out there, and
yep.
Now I'm just kind of like, oh God. People were like, how could you forget his name? Anthony Hopkins.
Oh, yeah, Anthony Hopkins.
And Cheetah was asking, Half Cheetah Review, Pat was asking, what kind of podcast do you do?
Well, my podcast is called Incoherent Ramblings of a Crazy Bitch, if that tells you anything.
I love that name.
I had somebody tell me tonight that they were listening to their very first, it wasn't the first episode, it was just whatever episode came up for their Spotify. And they turned it off because they felt like they were reading my diary. And I said, well, it's more like you're sitting at a table next to two friends just kind of talking, because Nick is the producer of the podcast, and that's pretty much what it is. We just sit there and shoot the shit. Sorry. Um, we just sit there and talk. We just say it all. There's times we're laughing, crying. I'm crying. I'm talking about, oh, when my dad died, or I'm talking about when some guy wanted to go halvesies on a hotel room. You never know what's going to happen. And
And
actually, we just had our first episode where we had a guest.
and
So we're going
where
to do
can
that
we
once in a
where
while.
can people find this podcast?
You can find it anywhere that you can find podcast. We're on YouTube. We're on Spotify, um, Apple. If you look for, if you just do a search, this sounds, I hate saying this because it sounds kind of arrogant. Um, but if you just do a search for Incoherent Ramblings of a Crazy Bitch, my podcast should be one of the first ones that come up. Or if you
Pat's
do a
asking,
search for my
yeah.
name, Erica Dyer, Dyer.
Pat's asking thoughts on bad shark movies. Oh God, oh God, shark movies.
Oh, we just Jessa Flux was the person that we just interviewed for the podcast. It was the very first guest that we had on the podcast, and she is in a shark movie. I don't know if it's good or bad. I haven't seen it. It sounds kind of amazing, but I love shark movies. I love shark movies. Whether they're bad or not. Sharknado? Who thought
Oh,
Sharknado would be a be
have
a
you seen the
be so big? Who would have thought that? Um, so but I'm glad Sharknado did become so big. Because it did revive a couple people's careers. Now,
about that does
oh,
that?
that's okay. I
But
kept talking.
have you seen the anniversary edition where they just touched everything up, make it look much better?
No, I didn't, but I should.
There's like it's got new stuff, but I think no, all they did was they just because it did. I went back to watch the original and it does not look like it aged well. Looks real bad and all the effects, and then they just kind of went back. Let's just clean all this up.
Mm-hmm.
But that opened a floodgate. We had
Tara Reid was in the first one, right? That's her name, right? Tara Reid.
Oh, she did a movie with
For
the
Sharknado?
niece of Mila Jovovich,
Okay.
Trailer Park Sharks.
Oh,
She's got top
it
billing in
sounds
it.
classy.
She's only in it for less than 5 minutes. She's got top billing in it. She has this scene with this bad southern accent. They're like, there's sharks out there. Well, the man didn't say anything about tornadoes. And I'm just bowing my head like, oh, God, they went there.
Oh, my God, I love it.
But that opened, we had Monster NATO, Ghost NATO, Clown NATO, Zombie NATO.
Oh, God. Yeah, it did. It did, because nobody ever thought about doing those kind of cheesy movies. But I'll tell you, I love cheesy movies. When I grew up, because I don't hide my age, I'm 50 years old. When I was younger, cable TV for us, we had those great big huge satellite dishes in the yard that when you just got a little bit of wind, the whole thing was like, I grew up watching those old movies. I'd get up and watch Alfred Hitchcock. I would watch, they would have reruns of like The Blob. I love B and C horror movies. I love it. So when they started doing all these shark movies, I just couldn't get enough of it.
And of
I like the
course,
mainstream movies too,
yeah.
but the thing with the low budget movies, people have to rely on their acting. The big budget movies, everything is CGI, everything is green screen. The Marvel movies, my God, it's all CGI.
Oh, yeah.
And the other movies, the lower budget, and especially the old movies, you have to rely on acting. I mean, Arsenic and Old Lace. Have you ever seen it? Arsenic and
no,
Old Lace.
I know the name, but I don't think I've seen it.
Okay, so
I haven't heard the name in a long time, too.
Yeah, Cary Grant is in it, and it's about his two aunts that run a boarding house, and they actually poison the guests of the boarding house, and they bury him in the basement. And Cary Grant doesn't. His character had no idea. And they're just two sweet little old ladies that are loved by the town, and they're just like, oh, well, we're gonna help so and so. He's in pain, so we're just gonna go ahead and help him. It is good. It's a black and white movie. But Arsenic and Old Lace, if you ever want to see an old movie,
One thing I
that's
like
a
about
good
the
one.
old black and white movies, you can tell it's really an old black and white music when you hear that old music.
Yeah.
That
I
I
love
know
that.
once you hear that music, I'm like, this is a true legit one.
Yep. Yeah, I love that. Alfred Hitchcock was always my favorite.
Oh yeah. What do you have a particular favorite of his for his
Um,
films?
Probably Psycho. Yeah.
Wasn't it
Psycho or
the what,
Rear Window.
wasn't Psycho the one that the first time we had a toilet flush?
Yeah, it probably was the
Because I'm
one.
like you couldn't see a toilet flush or hear a toilet flush or whatever, and they just
Yep.
like, yeah. Who because of that movie? Who hasn't run around going?
Yep. That's why it's always known. If you go, then people know you're talking about Psycho when he's stabbing. You know, I
Oh yeah.
think it was Janet Leigh in the shower. I don't know
And
my actors' names very well.
Jamie Lee recreated those photos of. I was like, oh, here for my mom. I'm recreating the shower scene.
Oh wow.
Of course, if anybody in the chat has questions, let me know.
Yeah, I see something in the chat. Wrong Turn 6. They had to cut a scene in release because they used a real missing person. That was posted by Mr. Bones. I
Oh,
didn't know that. That's interesting. Wow. Unfortunately, depending on where they film, that stuff could happen. Oh, it's kind of interesting. See, we do read your comments in the chat. So go ahead and put them in the
it's
chat.
actually pretty. Some people have trouble doing that, like doing like the live stream and then reading the chat. I've talked to people like, how do you do it? It's kind
So
of you just kind of
this
look over.
actually I actually have my laptop, and then I got two monitors behind you because I work in IT and I teach often. I will train in my day job, my bill paying job. Um, and so if we train virtually, I am watching a chat while I'm watching these screens for students. There is another question here. Do you collect physical media?
Yeah, we got a lot of people in this community. We're pro physical media,
Yeah,
which is
absolutely. I have a lot of
unfortunately.
VHS tapes that I've told my kids they wanted to toss them. I actually made my
Oh
one
hell
son,
no!
um, yeah, keep those things because and this is why if people ever wonder, well, why would I need that VHS tape? Not everything is being converted onto DVDs or being digitized to be archived. So
This
that
yeah.
VHS tape might be the only time you have to watch it. Yeah, not
Or you
everything
can
is
really
being
mess with
kept.
them and show them one of these.
Yeah.
The old.
Oh, yeah. Is
I've
that a
had to.
beta?
Yeah, I've had to explain to people what this is, and I'm like, how do I explain this without going
God
into
dang,
like
that's old.
the whole history? Yeah, it's like you ever seen a movie called it's Demon Lover or whatever from the 80s?
Yeah, yeah.
I hunted. It took me forever to find that on DVD, and I finally found it. And then now I heard it's on Blu-ray because I
Yeah,
wanted a copy of it.
yeah.
Because
They are trying to put more out there, I think. And I think that's, why Walmart has like those $5 DVD things that
they I have a little bone to pick with them. They have the VHS to DVD kit. Real
mm,
nice little adapter you hook up to your computer, but they're missing something. They don't sell VCRs.
yeah.
So if you
Yeah.
get that kit, you got to have a VCR, or you got to go through the fun of hunting a working VCR that's not going to eat your tape.
Yeah, actually just hit garage sales. A lot of people, estate sales, especially. Actually, a friend of mine, her uncle just passed, and I was just at his house. And he has a ton of VHS tapes and at least one VHS player that I saw. So I'm going to try to hit my friend up to try to buy that from her. Um, but yeah, I understand you can't walk into Walmart and get a VHS player, but you can still find them.
Yeah, I went
Um,
into Goodwill and found it. No controller, but I found one that works.
so you got to get up. You know what? That's what we had to do back in the day. We had like 3 channels, maybe 4, and we didn't have controllers. You had to get up and change the TV. So you
Yep.
don't have a controller? That's fine. Can you push the buttons on the VHS player?
Famously, I got told a story about one of my uncles who has since passed away. He would get upset because there was no one around to change the channel for him, and he had to watch westerns and stuff. He couldn't get up and change the channel, so he'd get all pissed. Like, why were you guys here to not change the channel?
Oh, God. Oh.
Library.
Oh, we have somebody from Alaska saying, greetings from Alaska. I can't see the stream. Sorry about that.
Mr. Dan's in the good old Alaska. I guess it's good old. Never been there. I got family there.
Yeah. I've actually been to Alaska once. Now, the stream is being recorded, so hopefully you'll be able to find that recording later.
Yeah, I always make sure. My whole thing about streams, unless something bad happens, they stay up.
Yeah.
And I've been lucky. 1 minute. Gotta get a piece of wood here. I've been lucky. Knock on wood. Nothing's happened.
You know, I like this whole stream. I've never used this. Stephen asked me. He asked if I'd used this type of streaming before, and I hadn't. I like your setup here. I like how you do this.
I've used.
I might steal it from you.
I've used like OBS and stuff, but then I heard about StreamYard. It's free, but it's limited what you can do. Okay. I end up getting the paid one because you have so many hours a month you can do, and I saw myself getting close one time, closer and closer to that limit. I just went, ugh. I think I need to kind of do it. It's you can do clips and you see a little banner at the bottom. You can do all kinds of stuff. So it's
neat.
It's easy. It's easy to use. It's not like was it Streamlabs, OBS, which not big on those two. Kind of had one of them. I made my computer sound like a race engine one time. That wasn't good when you're sitting there using one. All of a sudden you hear, going,
oh God,
that ain't good.
Yeah, no, we do my podcast on Zoom. But I like this. This is a much cleaner
like
picture.
what I mean about like with like clips. Let me look here because I can sit there and has a joke. I'll say something that can cause
emotional damage.
I am so going to steal this idea from you. I'm going to tell my producer. I'm like, we got to do this.
A lot of people, and you can use this, I believe, on YouTube, on Twitch, but I'm kind of always get a bad lag with Twitch, so I'm not.
Yeah.
One time, for some reason, it messed up my audio, and I ended up sounding like this, like a robot. So I started messaging people, telling them, "You foolish flesh bags, humans must die." But yeah, it's one. It's easy to use, and you can do presentations. You can show different things off. So it's
now. Can you take, because the way that my producer does it, Nick, he posts the video version of our podcast on YouTube and sometimes Rumble.
When you have go live, or you can do a record.
Okay.
Well, you won't be live. You can just record it, download it, and do all the editing you want to do and need to do. So you do have that option.
Do you also post your podcast on Spotify and all of that, the other places?
No, I'm on YouTube because it's the one I'm happy with. I haven't really gone anywhere else. I thought about doing some stuff on Twitch, but again, there's a delay. What I mean by delay is we could be talking, and then in chat, a couple minutes later, a question that someone asked will finally pop up in chat.
Okay.
And I feel I don't want them to think I'm ignoring them. It's just that there's such a bad delay.
Yeah. Okay.
But yeah.
No, this has been good. I do want to comment on something I just saw in the chat. I saw a cattail, I think. That came in from Mr.
Yeah.
Bones.
Also, we have Pat have cheated with you. He is a cat lover.
Oh, snap, kitty. I have 7 cats.
We have the one I call Demon Cat. She doesn't like women. And she's female. My joke is like if you're a woman, you try to pet her, she'll be like, she'll scratch you, be like, get away, I don't play that way.
Yep.
But then again, she doesn't like most people except for me, but for one reason. I clean her cat box and I feed her.
Yep.
So she tolerates me. But then other times she'll be friendly and all of a sudden you're walking away with your hand all scratched up because that's her way of saying she's done.
Yeah. Yeah, I have 7 cats. Everybody's like, 7 cats. It was never intended to be that way. I often, like when I do my stand-up comedy, I'm like, I have a cat for each year I haven't had sex. And I'm like, oh, I'm just joking. I should have 10 cats by now.
That's a good one.
But that is true. But yeah, it was never, I had 3 cats and 1 died. And I was so devastated that I got 2 cats to replace it. And then I had to get, like a friend found some cats that were dumped at their place and I felt bad for them. So I brought them in. So yeah, I ended up with 7. I actually started an Instagram page for them. 7 cats, 1 house. But I'm hoping that my sons, I'm trying to talk them into each taking 2 cats. So
yeah,
famously, they will take some cats.
Yeah. Famously, I used to have one called Mama Cat, which was this wild cat that I would take care of. No idea she was pregnant, and then I was taking care of a bunch of kittens, and then we had wild dogs all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
Catching Mama Cat was easy. Catching little tiny fur balls.
Yep. The kids are so fast.
Especially when you go, I caught them all, I'm all done. You stick your head outside and you're going, oh, son of a. Take them to somewhere where there's no dogs. Now, I lost a cat back in October. My cat, he comes into my room, was crying at my bed, and I didn't really acknowledge it. And then woke up the next day and found out he was crying because he probably wanted me to hold him before he went. So, I'm never gonna replace them because I've had 2 cats die, one in my arms and one at my bed.
Devastating.
Once Demon Cat goes, I'm like, unless my mom wants one, I'm just like, no.
Yeah. The one I had to have put down because I've had 2 die. So in the past few years, the one was old. I'd had him for 18 years and he was a full-grown stray when I got him. So we think he was over 20 years old. He died of natural causes. But then I had a cat that was 9 years old. He got cancer, leukemia. They said they could refer me to a specialist, but I'm like, I'm going to get kitty chemo. I mean, I love my cat, but
I knew someone, the cat had, I forget the exact name of the disease. Roughly put, they had what's nicknamed feline HIV.
Oh, yeah.
Which
I can believe it because my one cat has herpes in its eye.
Poor thing. And when I would cat sit, and then I would come home, I couldn't go near all my cats.
Yeah.
My clothes had to go into a bag,
Mm-hmm.
so they wouldn't go near them, and I had to take a really good shower. Because if I touched them, they could get it. Because apparently it works a little bit different than human HIV.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, it's just so hard when you lose a cat. I see this in the chat. My cat passed away of kidney failure in 2021. That really messed me up. I bawled and bawled when these 2 cats died. It's like losing one of my children. I loved these cats. Unlike the one I had for 18 years. My younger son was 1 year old when I got him. They grew up together. He was
what the most evil video series, a type of video on YouTube is?
Oh,
silly cat videos.
I get drawn into those all.
Oh yeah, if I have to go somewhere and I don't show up, just forget about calling me.
Yep.
I made the mistake of clicking on one and I'm clicking on another, and another, and another.
There was one time with social media, because you got to remember with my age, um, we didn't have social media when I was growing up. So it's real easy to get sucked into it. There was one day I found myself just watching these goat videos, like these little baby goats were jumping around. And it was like an hour. And I'm like, Erica, why are you spending an hour watching these baby goats? I'm
Okay,
trying.
going with movie. What do you think about when they have killer anima movies?
Killer what?
Anima movies, and there's a one
Oh, killer
animal.
animal movies? I
If
love
there,
it.
if you think there's one animal we haven't seen yet in one of these movies that you think we should see,
Are we talking about where we're killing the animals, or the
no,
animals are
the
killing
animals are
us?
killing us.
Oh yeah, I love that. Oh, so let's see. So I know Crocodile is coming up, which Jessa Flux. I saw somebody earlier said they love Jessa. Jessa Flux is in Crocodile. I'm supposed to have a role in Crocodile. Um, so I'll find out if I actually, if I can connect with them. It'll be a small one because I don't do many big roles. Um, but I think that I'm excited about that one. The raccoon one that was just out, Crackoon.
Crackoon.
Crackoon. Oh my God. I wanted to be in that one so bad. I think that's amazing. Having a crackoon kill people. Um, what should we do?
We have Cocaine Bear to thank for that one.
Yep. Yep. And then after that, there was like a Cocaine Panther one or something, wasn't there? That was filmed in
Crack.
LA.
Oh, that's there was it Dustin Ferguson did that?
I don't know who filmed it, but I was like,
think
oh my God.
I've seen it, and I want to say it's Crack Panther or something like that. And
It was something.
It's
Yeah.
a dust, and we had the shark,
Yep.
Meth Gator,
Yep.
Cocaine Cougar.
Cocaine, yes, Cocaine Cooter. Cooter. Slaughterhouse. Is that a good movie? I thought
want to
about
see
watching
that.
it the other day. Slaughterhouse. I think it's on Hulu right now.
I want to
haven't
see it
watched it
because
yet,
it sounds so ridiculous. Whenever you see the video, of
It
this little
sounds
animal just-
ridiculous, but the trailer looked really funny. Because the sloth in the trailer was moving real slow until it went to kill, and then it was like, "Ah." But God, if I was to pick an animal, it'd have to be something unique because they've used almost everything.
yeah, that's the thing. So you got to figure what animal is left. We did get teased with Chihuahua one time. There was like Robo.
Come on, write it.
It was Robo shark or whatever, and it's like this alien stuff comes to the water, and the shark eats it, turns into like this robotic shark. And when they kill it at the end, you see this Chihuahua, they ate part of it, and the Chihuahua's eyes light up red.
Oh God!
I'm like, oh God, no, please, no.
Oh God! I know my son and I were talking about writing a movie that has a tiger in it. That would be neat. But of course, it's been done.
Well, I mean, if it's a different spin on it.
Yeah.
I mean, look, we had Bad CGI Sharks, which is a fun movie.
Yep.
And Bad CGI Gator, which I still need to watch. And I'm waiting for that crossover. They so need to do that. Because in Bad CGI Shark, there's a scene where the shark eats this computer and it gains intelligence. And the woman's like, you ate all my stuff. I had all my porn on there. And you hear the shark.
Oh, God.
Much porn.
Well, there's 3 movies that I just filmed. I was going to visit my sister in North Carolina. And while there, willing to do some pickup shots, just some quick shots for 3 of his movies. So I'm actually in Terrifying T-Rex 2, Killer Kong, which obviously that has a big ape in it, Killer Kong, and Reptile Rampage. So those should be coming out real soon here. I just don't know where they're going to land. But yeah, so those are 3 movies. We got a T-Rex, Big Kong, and an alligator or crocodile. Um, what should we do? Animals.
I mean, there's got to be something out there that I haven't done yet.
Oh, there is. There is. I'm not very clever. If somebody shows me a script or they come up with an idea, I'm like, that's really good. I love that. I just don't come up with it myself.
I mean, look
I'm
at
just not.
Amityville. They've done so much with Amityville. And the joke was, what's next? Because that barrel, every time you think they've got the bottom of that, oh God, Bones, no. No.
Zombie.
No. Oh God, I lost brain cells off that one.
Cabin Cooter Fever. Oh God, I love this
I
group.
watched that movie, Zombievos, and literally thought I want to file a lawsuit to get my brains back, my
Oh,
cells back. Because not only do we get zombie
watch it.
beavers, but if they bite somebody, they tend to wear zombie beavers, complete with the teeth.
Oh my God.
Those buck teeth.
Now
It's
I've
just
got to
like,
watch it.
so it's just
Now I've
like,
got
oh
to
God,
watch it.
just give me my brain cells back. I'm just begging you.
That is hilarious. You mentioned Amityville movies. Oh my God, there's so many of them, but I got to mention one because I'm in it. Amityville Turkey Day is going to be coming out in the next few months.
Yep.
Now, that was a fun one to film.
Although they're asking if you know about Attack of the Killer Donuts.
No. Donuts hurt my hips, but they don't kill me. They
They
might
got
kill
like
me.
little. They come out. They got little mouths with little teeth, and you get a maple bar coming at you with like this open up with the mouth.
Oh God.
But yeah, that was the one that I wanted that Amityville one I really wanted to do for Thanksgiving to review. And then, like I said, it's just like because IMDb was like November, then it's like this, and then finally it's like, oh, I told Steven, is it actually coming out?
Yeah, I actually saw the finalized version of the DVD cover. It's not released yet, so we can't share it, but I did see it. It's actually pretty cool. It looks
Oh
really
yeah,
good.
and apparently it's required that I ask you about Inhuman Reach. What's worse than a killer donut? Killer Sloppy Joe.
Oh God. Werewolf Cooter Island. Good
The thing about
Lord.
Human Reach, that's one of those ones that kind of parodies the old sci-fi bad movies where someone comes from outer space, an astronaut lands on the planet and turns into a monster, and everybody's running around and purposely bad acting like they had back in those old sci-fi, black and white sci-fi movies.
Yep. Oh God, there's so many coming out that I'm not, there's some I'm not even part of and I heard them coming out and it's like, oh my God, that's hilarious.
I actually, because I decided, because YouTube, some people have do like a persona. I decided my persona was going to be the guy who's seen so many of them, his mind's shattered. So now I have like split personalities, which apparently my most popular one is Echo Clown because he likes bad movies, the bad or the worse.
Oh God, I love it. I love it, and I'm so glad you guys do because that gives me something to do.
Oh yeah,
we got a question here. Half Cheetah Will View. What is your favorite holiday? Mine actually is the 4th of July. It's during the summer. I like cookouts, barbecues. It's just kind of like a big. Hopefully, somebody invites me over for a cookout.
I'm not big on it. I live on a res.
Okay.
Anybody knows about res knows about those fireworks you can't take off the res.
Yep.
If you see the news when you're watching the war zone, I did a live stream one year, and they were watching. All of a sudden, they hear something other than fireworks. The asshole was firing the guns, and you're kind of going, "I'm going inside."
Wow.
But barbecues. What's your favorite barbecue food?
Brisket. Second would be chicken, burgers, burnt hot dogs. I will not eat a hot dog if it's boiled, but if it's burnt over a fire, I will eat it.
Then you know it's cooked. When it's burned, it starts to crack open.
Yeah, and it's all black on the outside, and you cover it with a bunch of relish. Yeah, I'll
Ooh.
eat that.
What are your thoughts on sauerkraut?
Oh, no.
I
My
had
mom used to eat that.
I had a friend one time. I was living in Seattle. We went to Costco and I had a hot dog with sauerkraut. And he wouldn't let me in the car. He rolls down the window and he hands me a thing of those little mints that came in the little tin. He's like, "You got to eat all of these. That's the only way you're getting in."
Oh,
So I
God.
literally had to sit there eating these things. That's the only way I can get in the car and get a ride home.
Oh, God. Yeah, sauerkraut. Mm-mm. No.
Oh, Reapers.
Yeah, I hadn't heard of those.
I,
Deep
I
fried hot dog to the point they rip open. That actually sounds kind of good. Not very healthy, kind of like the Midwest here where we deep fry Twinkies, but it's probably good.
have you seen they have one now? It's a hot dog, but you know what they use for the bun?
What?
Twinkie.
Oh, God.
They literally cut it
Wonder why we're all
open.
unhealthy.
And it doesn't help when you're watching all these videos and they're showing all this food and you're going, huh. That was so I ended up eating, what was it? I think it probably helped me remember ham, peanut butter, and chocolate sandwich.
Oh, I never ate that.
I learned about Dr. Eggnog. You ever heard Dr. Eggnog?
Mm-mm.
It's just eggnog and Dr. Pepper mixed together.
Oh,
Surprisingly good. Oh, Pat's asking, what was the worst craft table you ever saw?
one that wasn't there. I mean, I'm gonna be honest. Uh, yeah, I have been on film sets. I actually one film set I was on. I'm not gonna say the name of it because I actually did have a good experience, but it was just me. I was filling. It was an Indiegogo scene. It was out in the boonies in West Virginia. Went to this cabin. It was me and three guys. The cabin's locked, so we can't even get in the cabin. So there's no bathroom, there's no water,
Ooh.
there's no place for me to change. And I had like three outfit changes. So I had to go behind the cabin and completely undress and then dress again. Um, yeah, there was no crafty there. But second to worst would be ones that just have because I've lost 50 pounds in the last 2 years. I'll tell you, there's nothing like seeing yourself on the big screen to realize how much I really weigh. Um, when I
But
was
don't
in
they
late,
say that cameras add weight?
they used to. It was the film that they used. Now, not so much. It just you're actually seeing it in a different light and or maybe from a different angle. Um, but and that came, I talked to Felissa Rose about that. But yeah, so I've lost close to 50 pounds, probably gained some back in the past couple years. And there's sometimes I'll go to these film sets and we'll go to the crafty and it's all carbs, chips and cakes and little Debbie's. And I'm like, do you have any like fresh fruit or veggies? And they're like, no, eat this, eat this. I'm like, good God, this is why
Veggies?
we're all fat.
You don't have to
I
worry
mean, it
about
tastes
running.
good,
You don't
but
have to worry about running from the killer. He's like 500 pounds. He
yeah,
can't run after
I'm like,
you.
I was pre-diabetic and yeah, I'm actually still, of course, from the BMI, I'm still considered overweight, but yeah, I'm
I,
fine.
I get the whole you're husky.
Hmm.
I think that's a code for I go down like a ton of bricks when I go in the water. What was your
No, I'm
favorite?
not going to spill the tea. I'll tell you what, when I write my book, I will spill the tea. I haven't decided on the name yet, but I do have the outline.
Now you said you do stand up.
I do. Mhm.
What did you start doing that, and what kind of motivated you doing that?
Actually, stand up is something I started doing almost 30 years ago. I've always had a sense of, I've never had a problem being in front of people. My dad was a car salesman, he was a car dealer. We also had an auctioneer school that was close to our house, and I would go hang out there. So I was always very comfortable being in front of people. And I did an open mic one day at, a bar. Um, I was there one time when they were filming this late night. It was called Night Shift. It was with Kevin Ferguson in Fort Wayne, Indiana. And they pulled some people from the audience, and my son was one. So this would have been 28 years ago, would have been considered my first stand up 28 years ago. They pulled some people from the audience, and we were supposed to read a joke that was already pre written. So when I got up there, the joke was stupid as hell. So I just kind of did my own thing. And then through the entire rest of the show, they referred back to me. Like even the main comedians that they brought in referred back to me. And I thought that was hilarious. I mean, I was like, oh my God, I can't believe they talked about me. Who's the guy that he's one of the redneck guys that has the joke like, that's a real nice car right there.
I used
He's
to be into all of those guys.
yeah, he's one of the redneck guys that do
See,
that
there's
kind of thing.
Jeff Foxworthy, Larry the Cable
That's
Guy.
him. It was Jeff Foxworthy. That's him. Jeff
Yeah.
Foxworthy yes, he was there. He kept referring back to me. Then when he did his interview with Kevin Ferguson, and I mean, I wanted to be back up on that stage. And this is a little, because this was years and years and years ago. This is when he was first starting out, because this was a little tiny cable TV show. He actually found out where I worked, and he called me. Jeff Foxworthy did. And gave me a compliment, said, I was very comfortable on the stage, and that was something I should consider doing again. Can't really say if he was flirting with me or not, but he said, asked if I was free to kind of meet up and talk about it some more. But I had my son, my 1-year-old, and I was like, I don't know this guy. But ever since then, I wanted to be back up on that stage. So I did some open mics. And then as kids get older, I didn't get back on the stage until my son was probably 10, 15, maybe. It was somewhere around that age. But I had a blog, and that's, if you notice, I have my Erica Dyer, and then below it, I have ericadyer.com. That is actually one of my blogs. I had one that was on MySpace. That tells you how old my blog was.
Damn.
But so instead of being up on the stage, I would write in my blog. So if you go to ericadyer.com, you'll be able to find some of my old blogs. There's nothing real new on there. I am going to start writing on there again, though. But, it was just kind of hit or miss. And my type of comedy, so I am a very blue comic. I think that's what they call it. So, and you can probably tell it from the name of my podcast, Incoherent Ramblings of a Crazy Bitch. As a blue comic, we do a lot of cussing. We tell a lot of stories. It's not joke. It's like a big story, and I use a lot of curse words. So I would get flack from other parents that would read my blogs or would see me do open mic. I had kids that were in middle school and high school, and I got those that negative feedback where, well, this could affect your children, and I'm like, oh, fucking kids. So
well, I come from a Mexican family, and according to my family, and I can pretty much vouch for it, our favorite word, fuck.
Yeah, I'm like, ugh.
I have a cousin. She lives across the street from me, and if you were walking by, you thought we would hate each other.
Oh,
She'd scream across the street, "How the fuck are you? I'm doing fucking good. Fuck you." People would be looking at us like, are they fighting?
I love it.
We're just
Do you hate each other?
Like,
yeah,
nope,
so
it's affection.
Yep. So for like a good 10 years, I did nothing with comedy. And until 2 years ago, my youngest son graduated high school, and it's been full force since then. I've actually been out in LA twice and took this comedy camp out there, but I really only took the comedy camp because I got to meet Jay Leno, Adam Carolla. This last time they had John Lovitz there. You know, they have a lot of different comedians. I did stand up at the Hollywood Improv. It just kind of puts my name out there is really why I'm doing it. Was in a competition in Fort Wayne, but yeah, now it's full force. I found out.
What are your thoughts on horror comedy?
Oh, I love it. I love it. Um, I horror movies. I think they all genres have their place. I do think they do. And honestly, it just depends on what mood I'm in. I love horror comedies. Um, God, Marlon Wayans did one that was kind of like a parody. Was it Scary Movie that was the
He
parody?
did the first two scary movies. It's
Yeah.
him
Okay.
and one of it. There's like what three brothers and a sister, and there was two of the brothers that did the first two scary movies, and then
Mhm.
afterwards they kind of went downhill because here's a question for you. What is your guilt? This is Lamonia's asking. What is your guilty pleasure comedy?
Dave Chappelle. I actually took my sons, not it wasn't this New Year's. I think it was last New Year's. For New Year's Eve, Dave Chappelle actually did a show in Columbus, Ohio, which is only a couple hours from me. So I took my sons to go to Dave Chappelle. We had front row seats. Um, it wasn't because you got the stage and you have the sides of the stage. So we
Yeah.
were kind of off on the side, but we were front row, close enough to smell his cigarette smoke because they locked that place down. They made everybody put their phones up and he
Yeah.
just went to town. And I grew up listening to um, all of the older comedians. Which my mind's starting to go blank right now.
I know there's
But
like
Richard
George
Pryor,
Collins. Yeah, Richard
yeah,
Pryor,
George
George
Carlin, Richard
Collins,
Pryor.
Andrew Dice
Um,
Clay.
yep. And as I grew older, of course, then we had Eddie Murphy, young Eddie Murphy, not the
When
Eddie
he was,
Murphy of today.
yeah, I like the younger Eddie Murphy than the one of today. I
Yeah.
think he's more entertaining back then.
Yep.
Raw, we had Raw. That one Raw.
Yep. Yeah. Delirious and Raw. Those were two of Eddie Murphy's. Love those guys. God, I can't get enough of them. So that I want to call it real. It's real comedy. Yeah, it uses a lot of curse words. I use a lot of curse words. But it's funny and you can find the humor in it, which nowadays with comedy, and I was talking to Jessa Flex about this because I don't know if you guys realize this, but Jessa Flex does stand-up comedy.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yes, she does. And we were talking about that. And she said sometimes when she has a crowd, um, when she is going to do her set, she kind of has to feel the crowd out. Is it a crowd that's more woke, or is it a crowd that is going to laugh? And she said she can always tell because sometimes she'll say something, and the ones that are probably older, like me, um, laugh like crazy. The ones that are, and I even hate to use that word because it's just more sensitive, is what it really is. The ones that are considered more woke will be looking to see how the others react and if it's okay to laugh.
Yeah, I
And I hate
sat back.
that. It's
Yeah.
comedy. It's
Yeah.
meant to be funny. It's not meant to hurt anybody.
Do you remember Stanford and Son?
Oh God,
I
yes.
went back and I was watching that some of the old episodes. I was laughing at hysterics, and I stopped and I was thinking, they can't do this nowadays. They can't.
Yep.
But it was George Carlin. I was watching him. I realized something. I don't know if you noticed about him. He had a rhythm.
Mhm.
If you watch the way, I'm like,
He was a
I think
comic.
that, yeah, but he had a rhythm that no one else to me had. The way he would tell, like, I would like to take somebody who knows about music and stuff,
Yep.
have them watch him don't pay attention to the jokes, but just how he tells them.
Yep.
There's like a beat to them, a rhythm, which helps.
Yep. Yeah, all of those old comedians, they were like that. And it wasn't. A lot of people thought, like even Andrew Dice Clay, oh, he's getting up there and he's saying all these dirty words and he's really just cussing.
Oh yeah,
That's a reaction, yeah. But I'm going to be honest. My mom used the F word constantly. It was just kind of like it's like natural language for us. Um, I'm not doing it to shock you. It's just how I talk. So, and that's kind of like Andrew Dice Clay, how he
yeah.
was. And unfortunately, a lot of people didn't really listen to his comedy because it was funny.
Yeah,
It was
and
funny.
Demonia's got a question. Do you feel you have to censor yourself a bit more in today's world, or is everyone pretty open to your style of comedy?
So I have a good example of that. So I did this comedy camp twice out in LA. Like I said, it has Jay Leno, Adam Carolla, and some of the other ones. Um, Caroline Ray, and there were some big comedians there. Trevor somebody. I think he's big now. I don't know. He's some young guy. I didn't even know who he was. But the first camp, I'm out there with all these people that I don't know. And I'm trying to present myself in a little more classy. So when I did my stand up at the Hollywood Improv, yeah, it was tamed. It was toned down. It was good, but it was toned down. It was more just like, oh, that's great. Yeah, she did good. Well, this last time I went, one of my friends came to the Hollywood Improv to watch me, Bruce Locklear. I think it was Locklear. Yeah. I always forget his last name. But he came to watch. And this time I'd had a couple drinks and I'm like, you know what? I know I can be funny. And I didn't want to censor myself. But these people that I'm around, we have high class lawyers. We have people that got money. The first show, Adam Carolla was there, and this show, this one that I just did in February, I'm like, fuck it. I got up there and my set was about anal sex. So, and when I got off the stage, one of the guys that was at the prior show too, he comes up to me, he goes, "That's not the Erica I know." And it's like, well, that's actually Erica. That's just the one you hadn't seen before. So yes, I do find that I have to censor myself depending on the crowd.
But that's what I miss about some of the old cops. Again, like I talked about Sam Kinison, born
Yep. Oh,
in Yakima, Washington. Love the shit out of him. People like some people, they only know him as Screaming. Yes, he did scream. I remember a bit he did about, he goes, I read this thing about people were paying people in the morgue to let them have sex with the dead. And so he does this whole bit about, you're lying on the slab and you're thinking, life screwed me over. Life was bad. But at least I get to, why am I being flipped over? And, oh God, no, life's still fucking me over. Oh my God.
Life's still fucking me over. I love
he's lying on the stage making this motion. And I'm like, that's hysterical.
God, that's good. That is good.
Do you think there's any comedians out there that are still willing to, even if a little bit, to kind of go out there and just, do something that's not holding back?
You do still have some. Believe it or not, I noticed quite a few people, OnlyFans, which everybody thinks, and I myself thought OnlyFans was just for content creation for the young ladies that are trying to make money, but they're not. They actually have legit comedy on there now. It's just another streaming platform to kind of sell some of your content.
I know I've seen like some people, they do that for crossplay. The
Yeah.
more not the pornographic stuff, but the more they call it not safe for work stuff, they go there, but they're not
Yep.
showing anything.
Yeah. So for on OnlyFans, it's called OnlyFans Presents LMAOF. So it's Laugh My Ass Off OnlyFans. And they're like some of the big name. I've noticed they're mostly women. Um, but they're funny as hell. And we're not just talking, don't think, oh, they're going to be half naked. Because I thought that myself. I'm like, isn't that where you can make money showing your titties? I mean, isn't that
I
what it's
got
for?
it. I got into
But
a comic called Brad Williams. He's one of those comics who makes fun of himself.
yeah, I'll make fun of myself.
He's a dwarf.
But good for him for finding something that he enjoys.
He does a thing like he's like when it's snowing, he gets a flag and he puts on his back so that when he falls in the snow, at least you can find him.
Oh
But
God.
I didn't know they did comedy like that on OnlyFans. I never really.
I didn't know. I did not know either, and my computer won't bring it up. It's like going really slow. But yeah, because me and my producer Nick were looking at it because I'm like, oh, we can do comedy on there. What the heck?
Hmm.
Now, of course, you do have some that are trying to get their content creation with um, being half naked.
The
But
the the
yeah,
adult
there's
part.
Whitney Cummings.
Oh,
She's on there. Yeah,
I
and
haven't
she
heard.
is
I haven't
like,
heard her name in a long time.
yeah, Whitney Cummings. And it's like her legit, no holds barred comedy. And see, I've ran into that a lot too. Where being asked a little bit ago, do I limit my comedy or do I find myself? And I do, for the simple fact that a lot of people see me as a woman and think, I mean, they shouldn't just see me as a woman. I am a woman, but they they think women shouldn't talk that way. I actually had a guy once when I was younger tell me that, you're so pretty, but you curse like a sailor. I'm sorry, I do.
I
Um,
always have a one issue with that phrase. I'm a Navy brat. I grew up around sailors. For the record, I find that Mexicans can cuss more than a sailor. Sailors are not that bad. But my usual joke is, if you want to know why I'm so odd and kind of a pain in the butt at times, I'm a Navy brat.
yeah, there you go. There
I
you go.
remember my mom got mad at them one time because they decided to show me what alcohol does to a dog.
Oh, no, that's
Sticks her
terrible.
head outside the door. What are you doing to my son? Little kid watching the dog.
Oh God. We had somebody here. I always feel like there's always a bit of a taboo there when women take it to another level. Like we're only supposed to make jokes about how dumb our husbands are or iced coffee addiction. Yeah, I actually had somebody say that to me. Nick said it to me, the guy I do the podcast with, because he's like, yeah, most women comics that get up there, they talk about, their vaginas or their periods or men. But you got to remember, I was raised by a single father. So I don't have a lot of that. This is a woman's place. This is a man's place. I can only talk about these things and he can talk about these things because he's up here. Oh no, no, that's not how I was raised. And so um yeah, that's what I've changed. Yeah, so Amy Schumer, I like her movies. I wish she would do another one with Goldie Hawn, but her comedy has changed over the years. I don't know if it was having the kid and getting married, but
Yeah,
her
there
comedy
was
has changed.
there was some big kind of fuss about some special she did. Was it a year or two ago that they
Was
were
it on
going?
Netflix?
Yeah, wasn't they was
Yeah.
saying she did something in it that just kind of like had people going? It's like, I don't know. What did she do?
Well, nowadays we have to be mindful because we don't want to offend people. But if what I say, oh, she was accused of stealing jokes.
I've heard about that. Was Carlos Mancina.
Okay.
That was a big thing about him, about stealing. And Joe Rogan confronted him during, I guess he was doing somewhere, was doing a show.
Mm-hmm.
And Rogan, I think it was Rogan, got on stage and pretty much in his face confronted him. He did the one. Cosby has a joke about the father teaches his kid how to play football.
Mm-hmm.
And the kid goes on to be good football player in high school, in college, goes and joins the NFL, wins the big game, and they're going to ask him, is there anybody who you want to thank? And the father's watching TV like, this is my moment. This is my moment. Yep. I want to thank my mom.
Yep.
And Carlos Mancina did a version of that joke and got confronted about it. And he goes, I didn't know he did that joke.
Well, and see, here's the thing. And I think this is where I have kind of a leg up and where some people do. I don't tell a joke. Like Jay Leno can get on a stage and he tells jokes. Joke, 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 joke. I tell life. And as long as I'm talking about my life, then I know I'm not stealing anybody else's work. Yeah, I think Sarah Silverman, I see that. It's hard because, like with music, you only have so many music tones. So sometimes things are going to sound the same. Movies. People are always trying to create new movie ideas, but sometimes things are very similar to another movie. Comedy. You're going to find comedy that is very similar, but you got to make it your own. It's when you steal it straight up, word for word, that there's a problem. But as long as I stick to my thing where I'm talking about my life, then I don't think I'll run into that. And trust me, I got a lot to joke about.
Yeah, there was one comic, I can't remember her name. She was back in the 90s, Asian or Oriental, and her joke was basically growing up kind of being Asian and Oriental. Mm-hmm. And she would make fun of her mother, be like, oh, why you doing that? Why you doing that?
Yeah.
Probably had to deal with, going home.
She could. Nowadays, if she did that joke, she'd probably be, I don't know, canceled. But yeah, some people are great. And I think we'll come back around. I mean, laughter is important, music is important, movies are important. They're a mental break from the world, from paying bills, from being tired because your kids were up all night. We need those things for a mental break. And we can't be so mindful all the time. I mean, I'm not going to go out of my way to insult somebody unless I'm making a joke about myself. If I make a joke that I haven't had a date in 10 years, I'm 50 years old, never married, and I own 7 cats, which is all true, by the way. I'm not stealing from anybody. I know there's other comedians that have jokes about cats. They have jokes about not dating. They have jokes about, being never married. But as long as I stick to myself, then I'm not worried about it. And if I insult somebody or if somebody gets offended, well, what are you saying? That, if you own a bunch of cats, nobody will date you? That maybe not. I'm just telling my truth.
I forget who it was. There was some comedian who during one of his shows, he talked about, how he makes fun of himself. He goes, if you're going to make fun of other people, you should be able to make fun of yourself. Mm-hmm. Like if you can take it, you should be able to give it.
Yep. Absolutely.
I actually want to say that was Iglesias.
Yeah, it's the ones that can't laugh at themselves that you got to watch. Don't be so stressed all the time. Laugh. I see that with, is it Eddie Deason that I follow on Facebook? I think is one that I follow. Yeah. Eddie Deason. He was in Greece many, many years ago, and he's been in other things too. But he posts jokes sometimes. That's it. He just will post a meme sometimes that he didn't even create. He's just sharing it. And of these people like jump all over him, and he'll have to remove it.
There was this guy. It was an actor, short little guy. passed away about a year or so ago, and that's what he used to do, and post little things. Which one? Which cat's this?
This is Peanut. So Peanut was one of them that his parents was dumped, and she had kittens. And when I went to pick up the two parents, we didn't know they had kittens. So Peanut was found a few days later. Um, I had to bottle feed him, literally like a baby. I
Oh,
had a box by my
I'm
bed, and every couple hours I'd have to bottle feed him. So yeah,
yeah. You want to talk about Grease? Remember when they re-released Star Wars in the theater?
yeah, yeah.
You know they did the same thing with Grease.
No, I didn't.
They did. Now, who do you think sold more tickets?
Grease?
There was people sitting on the floor when I went. It was an
Really?
overpacked house for Grease, and we sung along with every song.
Yeah.
We did like "Summer Loving" and the song at the end.
Yeah, I'm hearing it in my mind right now, actually.
All the guys would sing the guy parts, and all the girls would
That's
sing the other parts.
amazing.
To this date, that is my favorite cinema
I
memory
love it. I
because I've
love it.
never experienced that type of energy. Not even Star
Yep.
Wars had that energy.
Yep.
Would love to feel that energy again someday.
Yeah, there's a few musicals. Rocky Horror Picture Show. We used to have parties and have that playing in the background
I
back in the
can't
day.
go see it live because there's a apparently in Seattle. I don't know if it's in other places. There's a rule about Rocky Horror. If you're a first time seer in the theater, you're
Yeah.
considered a virgin, which means you got to go stand in front of everybody in nothing
Oh.
but your underwear.
Oh God.
And I have this question about that. Not everybody wears underwear. What happens then?
Get there naked. Come on, just own it.
So that if they will go, are you Rocky Horror virgin? I'd have to lie. Otherwise, it's get up there, stand in front of a whole bunch of people in your underwear, be like, oh, no.
That's a good movie. I love that movie. I
You
love that
actually,
movie.
in this community that I'm in, the Midnight Hour, we love the living daylights out of that movie. It is like probably the favorite movie in the community.
Yeah.
Well, we're getting close to an hour and a half, and I got to go get some food, and all I've had is one of those replacement drinks. I got to get something
Been there.
solid. So, anything I got coming up?
I'm actually filming Placid Park on Monday. I'm filming a little scene for that. Um, New Year's Eve is getting ready to come out, which that one I'm excited about. You guys are gonna love the killer in that one. He looks amazing. But there's so many of them. If you want to see what I've been in, what's upcoming, you can always find me on IMDb,
Yeah. In
Erica
fact,
Dyer.
yeah, I will put all that information in the description. I always like to do that.
Perfect.
Plus, I do want to check out Incoherent Ramblings of a Crazy Bitch, which still I love the shit out of that.
So if you want to see the video and actually see Jessa Flux, you'll want to watch it on YouTube. Otherwise, you can listen on any of the streaming services where you listen to your podcast.
Anyways, thank you for joining me, and hopefully, Steven's all of his issues will be a-okay by next week. Oh, wait a minute. Does he got a convention coming up? Do you have any conventions coming up you're going to be doing?
No, I don't.
Anyways, thanks for joining me, and hope everybody has a good night. And if you're somewhere where it's warm, do what I'm doing, because you might be hearing it. Glue your ass next to a fan. And so I got to go put my AC in. It's in a hot shed. So.
All right. Night, everyone.